I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome. It is another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast, and a Merry Christmas out there. Hope you guys are enjoying the day. We got three big NFL games going on today. Dennis and I had picked our winners for those games on Tuesday. I went with all three road teams: the Cowboys, who are currently leading 24-17, the Detroit Lions, who are going to be facing Max Brosmer, and the Denver Broncos, who are going to be facing a whole lot of people in Chiefs uniforms we've never seen before, alongside Travis Kelce. I believe, Dennis, you picked the same three teams.
It was pretty difficult not to, given the associated quarterback situations of the home teams. So.
Well, and I'm still feeling pretty good about Dallas. They did just give up a touchdown, but they've got a lead, and we'll see. That might have been the only one that gave me a little bit of pause, just because you never know with the Cowboys. But we're going to preview the rest of the Week 17 slate, and that means we get a day off tomorrow, or our families get a day off, because let's face it, we didn't need that day off. But Saturday we pick up with a double header, and both games have playoff ramifications. The first one, the 10-5 Houston Texans against the 11-4 Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are officially in the playoffs. They still have an outside chance at the AFC West. The Texans are not officially in. They are kind of hovering around that last spot, but a win here over the Chargers would be good for the playoff chances and for their seeding. Dennis, it feels like all season we've been up and down on CJ Stroud for fantasy. It is championship week, so a lot of these questions are really aimed at the fact that you've got to have it this week. Would CJ Stroud be a player, even in Superflex, you'd feel good about in a gots to have it situation?
I think in Superflex, he's probably somebody you're playing. I don't know how good you're going to feel. He's QB 21 on the season, QB 24 in points per game. Substantial questions about the running game there. We like Nico Collins. Not Trey Harris. Who's the one Iowa State guy that's not Hutchinson and Noel? Jaden Higgins has played pretty well as a rookie. Christian Kirk has been mostly out of the lineup, but he tends to draw a few targets when he's in there. Dalton Schultz has been fairly consistent. So ultimately it comes down to the Houston defense, which has been phenomenal all year. But I'm not sold that Stroud is going to be a difference maker for fantasy. Yeah, if you're playing Superflex, you're probably starting him. The offhand chance you have two quarterbacks better, God bless you. But if you drafted Stroud and you maybe got him in a rookie draft a couple years ago in Dynasty, or, in redraft, you played quarterback chicken and you ended up with him. He's been a bit disappointing in that regard since his rookie year. But we'll see how it goes. I would probably be starting him as a low-end QB2.
Meanwhile, on the other side, it's Kamani Vidal and Omarion Hampton as a backfield duo. They feel like they've been a good backfield duo for NFL purposes, but how are you feeling about them for fantasy?
I was surprised when I went and looked. I expected Hampton to not be doing as well since his return. He's been back for 3 games now, and it's felt underwhelming, but he's actually RB20 in those 3 games. So he's putting up points. He had a pretty good week last week. I had to start him as my super flex in a league last week. It didn't help me because I made some other poor decisions. But that being said, Kamani Vidal is just RB47 on the year. It seems like Omari and Hampton is the lead back. He is healthy. The offensive line, the tackles have been injured. Both of their starting tackles are out. But Justin Herbert has been making up for it by getting rid of the ball or running the ball. Houston's got a very good pass rush. It's going to be a test this week. But the Chargers have a really nice receiving group with Gadsden and Allen and McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris. And then Kamani Vidal is a good receiving, probably a plus receiving back out of the backfield. And Omari and Hampton is serviceable. So as long as they're keeping Justin Herbert upright, I think the Chargers have a shot at this game. And I like Hampton. I think RB20, we saw Ashton Genty last week put up, 35 fantasy points against Houston? Yeah. And the Raiders have admittedly one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And the Chargers are a playoff team piecing it together on the edges of their O-line. So I feel pretty good about rolling Hampton out there. So, and honestly, I feel good about the Chargers. I'm going to take the Chargers in this game.
I'm going to take the Texans. I think they want to lock things up. They could really make the Colts game pretty much irrelevant with a win here. So I think they're going to go for it. The other Saturday game features the 7-8 Baltimore Ravens at the 9-5-1 Green Bay Packers. If the Ravens lose here, they are done. They will not be able to catch the Pittsburgh Steelers. So a lot of big stakes in this one. The Packers, meanwhile, they're holding on to that 7th seed. They're the only one of the current playoff contenders not in. Provided that the Lions win today, there's a lot of pressure on them to keep winning if they want to stay in. So a big game on both sides. The Ravens, we are still not seeing Lamar Jackson practicing, which seems like a bad sign. Some bad reports about energy with him and the team anyway. So I know if you're in the playoffs, you're starting Derrick Henry, but I think I'm avoiding all the rest of the Ravens. How about you?
It depends on how deep your league is. Zay Flowers is RB6 over the last 3 weeks, wide receiver 6 over the last 3 weeks. The Packers give up the 13th most points to wide receivers. So I do feel okay starting Flowers as my wide receiver 3, even with Tyler Huntley. The Ravens will try to pound Derrick Henry if Lamar Jackson is out. Huntley's not a world beater. He's just a guy, and he knows the offense, though. And while he can do the dollar store version of the stuff that Lamar Jackson does, he's not going to be able to put the team on his shoulders and carry it. So he's going to need help. And Zay Flowers is the number 1 receiver there. Mark Andrews is not that dude anymore. DeAndre Hopkins is going to catch you a couple passes. Rashad Bateman will catch you a couple passes. But I'm pretty comfortable with Zay Flowers.
Meanwhile, for the Packers, both Jordan Love and Malik Willis are banged up and not really practicing. Josh Jacobs also banged up. So are there any receivers you feel good about for the Packers in this game?
I mean, if you have to start a Packers receiver, to me, Christian Watson's the one you want if he's healthy. I think he just is their most athletic and probably gifted receiver, but he gets banged up pretty easily. Romeo Doubs is probably the safer play. He does lead the team in targets and receptions per game. Again, I'd probably start Flowers over either one of these guys, but I could see flexing if it's a situation where you probably don't roster multiple Packers receivers. So if you have one of these 2 guys, you're probably sticking them in there in your flex.
I am taking the Packers.
So am I.
The 3-12 Arizona Cardinals at the 5-10 Cincinnati Bengals. Dennis, we've liked what we've seen from Michael Wilson. Marvin Harrison came back last week, was kind of unimpressive, but with them both in the lineup, it doesn't feel like either of them is getting a commanding amount of passing volume. Do you feel good about starting either of them in a championship week?
If they're both out there, I'm really troubled. I actually have a team where I'm hoping Drake London is back and good to go because I roster both Wilson and Harrison, and I'm going to try to avoid starting either one of them in that game. They each had 3 targets last week. Wilson saved his day a little bit with the touchdown. But the backup tight end, Elijah Higgins, had 8 targets last week, and Trey McBride still got 8 targets. So out of Jacoby Brissett's 31 pass attempts, 16 of them went to the tight ends. It really makes me nervous. I think I would probably go with Wilson because he has been performing better, but I don't feel comfortable about either one of them.
Meanwhile, on the other side, we know about the passing game, but Chase Brown has had a quietly solid season, and Arizona's defense not scaring anyone. So you're feeling pretty good about him for the fantasy championship week?
Yeah, I'm firing Chase Brown up. The Cardinals give up the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs. It may be a game this week where Samaje Perine is flex work.
I am taking the Bengals.
So am I.
The 9-6 Pittsburgh Steelers at the 3-12 Cleveland Browns. Pittsburgh could actually already be in the playoffs by the time this game kicks off. If not, they have a chance to win and be in, but they are going to have to do it without DK Metcalf, who got that 2-game suspension. Is there a pass catcher you like to step up in his absence that you would feel good about playing?
I mean, the Steelers had the 21st ranked passing offense with DK Metcalf. So it isn't like they're blowing the doors off of the NFL in the passing game. The Browns give up the fewest passing yards per game. Myles Garrett is trying to break the sack record. He's going to be going hard. I really, if I can avoid it, it's probably Calvin Austin, but Adam Thielen was getting some run last week. And, we know how Aaron Rodgers likes his old fellas. And Adam Thielen certainly falls into that category there. But we can't forget, who's their OC, Mr. 14 offense. I love Arthur Smith. So, this may be a game where you're firing up Freiermuth and Darnell Washington.
On the other side, no Quinshon Judkins. He's now on IR. Do we like Dylan Sampson this week?
So I think Sampson splits time with Raheem Sanders. And mostly Sampson is a 5'8", 200-pound running back. Well, Sampson ran for almost 1,500 yards last year in college. He caught, I think, 55 or 50 passes in 3 years in college. And ideally, I think the Browns view him as the passing down option paired with Quinshon Judkins as the early down thumper. Well, Judkins is out with the broken leg. Jerome Ford is on IR. They let Pierre Strong walk, and no, there's 2 guys there. There was Strong and somebody else. One's on IR, and they let the other one leave. So you're going to see it wouldn't surprise me to see 12 to 14 carries out of Raheem Sanders and 10 to 12 total touches out of Dylan Sampson. Sampson has the more explosive profile, I think, even though Sanders' nickname is Rocket, but that was early in college before he had some knee injuries. So they'll use Sanders as their big running back. He's I think he weighs about 225, 220, 5'11". He's a bigger dude. So I don't hate Dylan Sampson as a low-end flex because he should get some passing down work. But with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, so often he ends up just eating the ball because he's trying to make a play instead of just dumping it off to the running back.
I am taking the Steelers.
I tried to find a way to convince myself to take the Browns, and I just couldn't get there. So I'm taking the Steelers too.
Another tough Sunday game, the 5-10 New Orleans Saints at the 3-12 Tennessee Titans. Dennis, your boy Juwan Johnson has quietly put up a nice season. Is he a good tight end option this week?
Yeah, it's helped him a lot getting rid of Rashid Shaheed. Johnson has 93 targets, caught 70 passes, 733 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So now his competition for those secondary targets, it's Devon Vele, it's Dante Pettis, it's other people, Mason Tipton, Foster Moreau, Taysom Hill. He's the number 2 option in that offense right now when it comes to the passing game. Tyler Shook is potentially going to be the savior to my season in a couple leagues. Playing in Dynasty in leagues with no trade deadline. I had a situation where I ended up with just one quarterback, and I went out and traded for Tyler Shook because I just ran out of quarterbacks. So in one league, I traded a first-round pick for Tyler Shook and DeAndre Swift. So to me, that felt like giving me some running back depth with some potential to score some points, and I needed a second quarterback.
On the other side, we've seen Tony Pollard had a really slow start, but he's really picked it up in the last few weeks, back in running back 2 range. Are you feeling pretty good about him going into the final week?
So he's running back 24. He was RB 21 in 2024. And the difference really between this year and last year has been his passing down work. And some of that I think I'm attributing to Cam Ward and the growing pains that he has had. I like Pollard. He's getting ready to – he's close to his 4th straight 1,000-yard season. His receiving numbers are down, like I mentioned. He does have one more year left on his contract. If they keep him next year, he'll have a $9.25 million cap hit. If they decide to cut him because they're like, hey, we're going to roll with Tyjae Spears and I forget who the other backup is with Julius Chestnut, I think a Michigan dude. His dead cap is only $2 million. But I think Pollard has earned the right to play out that last year. So maybe they do a little bit of restructuring, but I don't think Tennessee's in too bad a cap situation to begin with, especially having a rookie quarterback. So they don't have any real bona fide superstars either. So they should. I'm comfortable starting him as an RB2.
I'm going to take the Saints.
I'm going to take the Titans. I like the work Cam Ward's been putting in. He's just getting a little better. I know the Saints are doing it too, but I'm going to go with the home team.
A big matchup in the AFC South, although could get doused a little depending on how things shake out Saturday. But that's the 11-4 Jacksonville Jaguars against the 8-7 Indianapolis Colts, seemingly snake-bitten Colts. Dennis, I was a little cautious about Trevor Lawrence last week going against Denver. He had 279 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's now up to quarterback 4 on the season. Is he just an auto start even in a 1 QB league?
I think so. Yeah. Brenton Strange is pretty healthy. Great chemistry with Jacoby Myers. Still a little inconsistent with Brian Thomas. Parker Washington's playing well. Travis Etienne is getting a ton of work both on the ground and in the passing game. We've seen coaching matters, and Liam Cohen has done a great job. His sacks are still a little high. You'd like to see him not get sacked as much, but he's 9th in passing yards, 3rd in passing touchdowns. And he's 11th among quarterbacks in rushing yards and tied for 3rd in rushing touchdowns with 7.
Meanwhile, for the Colts, it's been a rough stretch. Can they get this win?
It's going to be hard, I think. stranger things have happened. Check out Netflix for the new series. Not a sponsor.
I know. I'm ready for those episodes, but they're not coming out until after the Broncos beat the Chiefs. So I gotta.
So Jacksonville defense gives up the second fewest yards per pass attempt, but they give up the 9th most passing yards, which really plays into Phillip Rivers' arm strength issues. Dude will chuck it. He just can't throw it very far. If he's throwing it 20 yards, it gets to wobbling pretty quick. Jacksonville does have the stingiest rushing offense, though, so they give up the fewest rush yards. So Rivers in that short passing game are going to have to get it done against the Jaguars. And I love the Phillip Rivers story. The comeback, I think it's great, but I'm going with the Jaguars here.
I'm going to take the Colts. I think their backs are up against the wall, stepping out in faith a little bit because it could end up being meaningless. But I think they still want to win. They want to end strong. The 7-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 6-9 Miami Dolphins. Dennis, we talked a little bit about the struggle with having all the receivers healthy for the Buccaneers, but Emeka Egbuka only 1 reception last week. Granted, it was for 40 yards, so at least she got 5 points. But I am really nervous about the volume he's getting. I actually took him out of one of my lineups. How are you feeling?
I think you're making the right move. So I get it. If you look at the season-long numbers, he's wide receiver 19. But he's just wide receiver 29 since the week 9 bye. And if you take away the 23.5 points in week 10, now he's dropped all the way down to wide receiver 49. So that's, a high-end wide receiver 5. That's scary.
Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, you're starting Jalen Waddle, but there's no other pass catcher I think I'm interested in. I'm even a little nervous about Waddle with Quinn Ewers back there, but do you feel any different?
I mean, Devon Achane?
Well, I don't think of him as a pass catcher, though. He's going to hopefully make a lot of
the team in targets.
Well, I'm not saying he doesn't catch passes, but he's not, I'm starting him for sure. He's probably the Dolphin I feel best about.
Waller hasn't played much, but when he's in there, he's tight end 11 in points per game. So you could probably do worse. It is risky, but we've seen, for the most part, this Dolphins team is fighting for Mike McDaniel. Last week, they got steamrolled by Cincy. I wouldn't be surprised if it's another convincing loss to Tampa this week. I'm picking the Buccaneers. But Quinn Ewers wants to prove he belongs. He's going to try to get it done. And Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle, and Darren Waller are the weapons he has at his disposal.
I am also picking the Buccaneers. The 12-3 New England Patriots at the 3-12 New York Jets. Dennis, it was a rough stretch for Stephon Diggs, but I think he heard that I had him on my sit list last week, and he went off. Do you think he could go off again here against the Jets?
The Jets are middle of the pack versus the pass, but that's probably a function of the fact that they give up the most fantasy points to running backs, so they can be had on the ground. This feels like a screaming Ramondre Stevenson start, especially with Travion Henderson nursing an ankle. Diggs is wide receiver 23 on the year, but man, it's been a roller coaster ride. He is their top receiver. As much as I like Kayshon Boutte, they just don't give him enough volume despite the number of spectacular catches that he makes. Hunter Henry gets a pretty decent, he's a relatively safe play. But none of the other receivers outside of Diggs, I'm really very comfortable starting.
Speaking of not comfortable starting, that's how I feel about the Jets just in general. Not bullish about having to put any of them in my lineup. In fact, I think I took all my Jets out. You feeling any different?
I don't have any of them in there. You may not have that luxury if you roster Breece Hall, but there's as much as I like the the come up a little bit of John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell, and I'm looking forward to see if they can get a real quarterback, what they can do combining those two with Garrett Wilson next year, and see what happens in that running game. I'm not starting any of them.
If you're looking for one ray of sunshine, I would say that New England was like a no-go for running the football against them for a couple of weeks, but they've allowed some bigger rushing performances of late. But it's hard to trust in Breece Hall. I would feel a little bit better about the Jets if Tyrod Taylor's able to go, but he's still real limited. I don't think we're going to see him. So I am taking the Patriots.
So am I.
The 12-3 Seattle Seahawks at the 8-7 Carolina Panthers. This actually could be one of the games of Sunday. Ken Walker had a very explosive Week 16, thanks in large part to breaking off a long run and having a couple of big passes. But do you think he could do it again?
If they give him the opportunity, they just are so inconsistent with giving him opportunity. And when they get in close, they pull him and put in Charbonnet. So, he's not getting the short touchdown opportunities. I don't know, man. I like Ken Walker. I feel like it'll be a struggle for them to re-sign him because he's going to look around and be like, why would I come back here when you're just going to, every time I get a little groove going, you sit me down for Zach Charbonnet.
I don't even think they want him back, to be honest.
It does sure don't feel like it, does it?
Meanwhile, Carolina's backfield has turned into some kind of a dreadful split. I'm honestly at the point where I don't think I like either of their backs in a championship week. Do you like either of them?
So I like Dowdle substantially more than Hubbard. While they're pretty cold on Dowdle as the pass catcher because of his pass protection, Hubbard only has 3 double-digit games this year, and Dowdle is having a pretty good year. He's the explosive member of that backfield. I'm comfortable starting Dowdle as anywhere from, RB2 to my RB2 to my bottom end flex, obviously. So for me, I'm going to roll Dowdle out there where I have him.
I'm taking a big swing. I'm going with the Panthers.
So am I.
Next up, there's only 2 late afternoon games on Sunday, so you don't have a lot of options to choose from thanks to having 2 games on Saturday, 3 games today. The first of those games is a battle for the number 1 overall pick, the 2-13 New York Giants at the 2-13 Las Vegas Raiders. I don't know if either of them is going to be trying to win, but somebody is going to win. Jackson Dart did not look like he was trying to win last week, only 33 passing yards, but thank God he gets to face the Raiders. He's been pretty good for fantasy and for the Giants. Do you think he can get back in a groove here against the Raiders?
Well, the Raiders are the team to get your groove back against, that's for sure. They're tied for 4th fewest interceptions and 3rd fewest sacks. So the Raiders defense can be had. And when you add in Jackson Dart's plus mobility, so long as he can keep Mason Crosby from taking his head off when he runs or any of those other defenders there in Las Vegas, I like Dart to bounce back this week.
Meanwhile, the Raiders doing us no favors, put Brock Bowers on IR. Do you trust any Raider pass catcher to step up in his stead?
I mean, Michael Mayer is going to be the tight end. We liked him. Unfortunately, Geno Smith is his quarterback. The Giants give up the 4th most fantasy points to running backs, including the 8th most receptions to running backs. So it feels like another week for Ashton Genty to go off. Probably Trey Tucker's the wide receiver I would want, but I think Jack Besh had 6 targets or something last week. So they're finally taking that 2nd round rookie draft pick and going to try to work him into the mix. I don't know if they'll do anything with Dante Thornton. They seem to have put Tyler Lockett on ice. So if I had to start a Raiders wide receiver, it would be Trey Tucker.
I'm going to take the Giants.
Yeah, I am too.
The premier afternoon game is the 10-5 Philadelphia Eagles at the 11-4 Buffalo Bills. I feel like you're probably starting all your Eagles, Hurts, Saquon, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert. I don't know if I particularly trust any of them. It has just been one of those weird seasons for the Eagles.
Yeah, they only have 4 games with over 250 yards passing. The Bills are giving up the 6th most fantasy points, 4th most rushing yards, and 4th most rushing touchdowns to running backs. So it sure feels like a Saquon Barkley, Tank Bigsby game. Now the Bills do have a plus 90-point differential on the season, so it is possible they do get a lead. They've got weapons of their own. And so it is possible they get a lead and Philadelphia has to throw the ball, but Philadelphia doesn't throw it great. When they do throw it, they have a pretty narrow funnel. It's typically AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. And if you roster those guys and you're in the championship game, you'd be hard pressed to sit them.
For Buffalo, I'm excited to play James Cook. Josh Allen, I'm still pretty excited, although there's been a few hiccups on the road. But pass catchers, it just feels like this guy is Shakir. He's wide receiver 32, but even he doesn't seem to have a safe floor. He's had some big games, and he's had some games where he had almost 0. So in a championship week, is it better to just avoid the Bills pass catchers?
If you can, it's just they just spread it around. They were super out on Keon Coleman, and then they had to play him, and they did, and he got a touchdown, and then they're back out on Keon Coleman again. It feels like Dalton Kincaid is where you want to be, but then Dawson Knox will start catching touchdown passes and messing that up. It's really James Cook is who you want to start in that offense. Outside of that and Josh Allen, it's pretty tough.
I'm going to take the Bills.
Yeah, I've been debating back and forth, but I think the Bills are going to take it.
Sunday Night Football is a huge matchup. The 11-4 Chicago Bears at the 11-4 San Francisco 49ers. Both teams are officially in the playoffs, but both have designs on a good seed. Rome Odunze still not practicing. Luther Burden still banged up. DJ Moore stepped up in their stead last week. Can he do it again?
San Francisco gets the fewest sacks and the second lowest pressure rate of any NFL team. So that bodes well for Caleb Williams. And if Caleb Williams has time to throw, DJ Moore is his best receiver with Odunze injured and Burden out. I think Colston Loveland will have a pretty good game. And based on my earlier trade mention, I'm hoping DeAndre Swift also has a good game. Yeah, I think DJ Moore is primed to have another big week. San Francisco can score points, so Chicago's going to have to score points. And I don't think they can do it with the injuries to their wide receiver group without DJ Moore being super productive.
Meanwhile, for San Francisco, don't look now, but Brock Purdy actually QB5 on a points per game basis. He's been killing it since he came back. Do you like firing him up this week?
Yeah, 20.5 points per game. What's not to love? Dude is firing it up, and it doesn't matter who's out there. Kittle is a little bit banged up, but we've seen Jake Tonges perform well. Christian McCaffrey's going to be out there. I think McCaffrey finally had a game last week where he carried the ball for more than 4 yards per carry. But even when he's not, he's catching, 15 passes. McCaffrey's headed for his second 1,000 yard season. And I think as they look with 2 games to go, I think they're going to be cognizant of that. I don't know that he's got any bonus built into his contract for that. But Christian McCaffrey, I think San Francisco recognizes, hey, he's probably going to be broke next year, so let's use the hell out of him this year. Juwan Jennings is good. Ricky Pearsall's in and out, and it's whoever the tight end is, whether it's Tonjes or Kittle, Juwan Jennings and Christian McCaffrey.
I am going to take the 49ers in this one.
So am I.
The 11-4 Los Angeles Rams at 6-9 Atlanta Falcons Monday Night Football. Dennis Devontae Adams missed week 16. He's still banged up dealing with injury, but it looks like he's tracking to play in week 17. Do you like him if he comes back?
I like him to catch 30 yards worth of passes for 2 touchdowns. There's a little bit of rumbling. They may just shut him down until the playoffs. And when you've got Puka Nacua, you can kind of do that stuff. The Falcons have the number 8 pass defense, but the number 25 rushing defense. So the Rams may be able to put up a lot of production with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. And Puka, whether Adams is in there or not, Puka is going to get his 10 to 28 targets.
Meanwhile, for the Falcons, Drake London came back last week, but they're still working him back in, and it sure feels like Kirk Cousins mostly has eyes for Kyle Pitts. You're excited London's back, but are you feeling good about him from a fantasy standpoint against a good Rams team?
Not yet. And the Rams have a good defense. London has not reached full blast off since his return from the PCL strain. He played 1 fewer snap than Mooney last week, which is good. So they were the top 2 receivers. He was 3rd on his team in targets with 8, behind Bijan at 11 and Pitts with 9. So he had the volume of opportunity. He just didn't convert. So if he can convert, if that knee's feeling better, his mobility is better, the opportunity for him to be able to put up numbers is good. He's still wide receiver 22, and that's after missing 4 games. So that says something. He's been productive. I think I'm not concerned about him losing opportunity to David Sills and Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, it's mostly just, does he have eyes for anyone other than Pitts? I am taking the Rams.
London only had 1 fewer target than Pitts. Just Pitts converted. I'm taking the Rams as well.
Well, and they still kind of have a triumvirate too, because Bijan gets passing game work too.
A
lot. Well, that is a wrap on the slate. It is still going strong over there in Washington. The Cowboys have a 27-20 lead now into the 4th quarter. But if you played Bill Krosky-Merritt, you're feeling good. Already 105 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Who would have thought it?
Man, Lamb, 10 targets. You love that, but he's only converted 5 for 46 and no touchdowns. Dak is only completing 50% of his passes. Malik Davis is 15 for 83. Javonte Williams, man, I got a lot of Javonte.
I know.
That was a bummer.
Not starting off that well. We will have a wrap up on week 17, probably talk a little bit about how our fantasy seasons go. I don't remember if we talked. I have one league that concluded in week 16 that I was in the title game and got the title. I have 18 championship games going this week. So, I'd like to have a nice percentage. How many finals are you in?
So I made 6 finals out of 18 total teams.
Pretty good.
I had 7, and I've got 4 teams playing in the consolation game. Which isn't very consoling if I'm being truthful.
I don't usually set lineups for those. I have so many teams. The way I keep track of who's still alive in the playoffs and who's not is I set like a tank lineup once I get eliminated from the playoffs. So I don't think any of the leagues I play in you get anything for consolation. Usually playoff seeding is set by your regular season finish and where you got
by consolation out. I mean 3rd place game, and often 3rd place game is if you win, it covers your entry for the following season.
Oh yeah, I don't have anywhere where I could. I would probably play more seriously if it was money on the line. But Hopefully, you guys are having a Merry Christmas. I am still somewhere out in the Atlantic, a different part of the Atlantic. We did stop yesterday at Grand Turk in the Turks and Caicos, which I believe they are an Olympic nation. So I got to see
They
their
are. So no, we're gonna get up bright and early tomorrow morning, and we're driving to Panama City Beach, Florida, so Cole can play in a baseball tournament.
Yeah, we'll be like two ships passing in the Florida night some point on Saturday. But next time you see me, I will be back in my house, not on the open seas. Although I do feel like the last two episodes of shows have got to be should be used as a commercial for Princess Cruise Line's internet, because it's pretty robust.
We'll see. I don't know. My at-home internet is pretty spotty. We'll see what it's like at the hotel.
We need to get you some Princess Cruise Line internet for your house. So, well, I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas and have a safe and happy championship weekend. We will see you again on Tuesday.